Bing bong bing. What's going on? Peace and blessings to everybody watching. Peace and blessings to the fam. Peace and blessings to my people. Peace and blessings to everybody out there. About to do another live stream. Just waiting a couple of seconds for Insight Timer. I look real tired right now, but it's okay. We're going to make it through. We're going to be all right. The night's just starting. We got people here already. That's beautiful. All right. About to hop on Insight Timer. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. What's going on, y'all? It's okay. I don't mind being called Denzel. How is everybody doing? As y'all come in, let's do a check-in. Let me know how you guys are feeling tonight. I'm feeling really good. Send some positive energy out to y'all. All right. Thank you for everybody who's showing up here tonight. I think this is going to be a good one. Christina, what's going on? How you feeling, Christina? Emmy, how you feeling? Jackie, how you feeling? Rita, what's up? How am I feeling? I'm feeling good. I just feel a little tired. That's all. Been kind of a long day, but a good day. Hopefully everybody's feeling happy, feeling blessed. I know. Just finish the watercolor class. Cool. I was just doing some painting with my sons. I was watching a Chinese calligraphy video with them, because I heard that it's very relaxing. It's kind of like almost like a form of meditation. So I was having them like do the Chinese characters and stuff. They liked it. They dug it. Thank you, Emmy. I try. I got sweet boys, so it's easy. I got sweet, beautiful boys, so it's easy. I'm glad you guys are here with me. Yeah, so this one we're going to be talking about forgiveness. We'll get started at about the 7-minute mark. Chelsea, how you doing? Just got off work at an art gallery. Okay. Chelsea, this might sound like a strange question because I don't really know. Do they have like types of art galleries? Like, does your art gallery specify a particular kind of art, or is it kind of just art in general? That might sound like a lame question. I haven't been to a gallery in a while. Yeah, V2, they don't like veggies. They love fruit, they don't like veggies. Contemporary local artists. Okay, gotcha. Tired but good. Yeah, this one was an interesting one. This was a tough one. I can't wait to start having this conversation. I think this is one of those conversations where we could all benefit from it. I could definitely benefit from this conversation. We're gonna be talking about forgiveness. And this is something I think that it's we all need a life lesson on that. Julian, you going to sleep? Okay, well, thanks for stopping by, Julian. I'm glad you stopped by for a second, man. Get some rest. Good luck with your game tomorrow. But glad that you're here. Glad you stopped by for a second, at least to say hello. So how's everybody doing? How's life treating y'all? Hopefully, last week, for those of y'all who were here last week when we did that little ritual with the writing down all the stuff we were stressed out about, and then we burnt the papers. I'm not gonna lie, I felt really relieved. I felt like I let a lot of negative energy go. You know what? You're right, Val guy. Am I saying your name right? Valgal? I'm so sorry. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. But you're right. Forgiving oneself is the mostly important thing, and I think that's probably the hardest thing too. It's been sweet, Kiran. Okay, good. I'm glad y'all feel that way. Glad you guys felt that way. Awesome. All right, so we're gonna start in a couple more minutes. Just give a couple more minutes for people to come in. Angelina, aloha. Aloha. Valerie is your name. Okay. Oh, Val Gal. That's what that is. I thought it was like, I'm sorry, I thought that was the actual name. Yeah, I did too, Jackie. I do feel lighter. All week I felt really good. First time here? Okay. And you're going to be thinking, oh my God, this guy butchered my name. I'm never going back. Jess, blessings to you as well. Hello, Melanie. Hello, hello, hello. I had a pretty good day today. I really want to start working out again. I was doing pretty good for a while when I first got down here to Maryland, but my job schedule is very different. Keisha, your first time here? All right, awesome. Melanie, what's up? First time here? Okay, well we're gonna have an interesting conversation tonight. Hopefully you enjoy it. But yeah, I was just talking about how I want to go back to working out again. I want to become a vegan again. I was a vegan for the first few months down here, but that didn't last long. And my job schedule is very, very different, so I got to get up in order for me to work out, I have to get up early, like 5 in the morning. But like my sleep schedule will change because of my job, but I want to start working out again. I miss it. And I put on a little belly during quarantine. Gotta get rid of it. And I'm looking at pictures of myself, and it's like, I don't know. I just want to get muscular again, lose some weight, get these muscles up again. I can't wait. I still feel strong, but just not in shape. I'm from Hartford, Connecticut, and then I moved down here to Maryland after me and my wife separated. She moved down, and I moved down to stay in the kids' lives. Other things took over, Jackie. Yeah, that's how it always is. There's so much to do. And for some odd reason, working out just is so far down the list. Because honestly, I don't want to. I got lazy. I never thought I'd see the day where I got lazy because I was such a disciplined guy. I still meditate every day, but I'm not reading as much as I used to. I gotta get disciplined again. I gotta be real strict with myself. I'm about to explode with my discipline. All right. 7 minutes in, so let's get started. Thank you guys for your patience. So this one was a tough one. Kiran, you're right. Forgive myself, you're right. So like I was saying, we're talking about forgiveness, the miracle of forgiveness. And a lot of times after I give my live stream session with you guys, I immediately start thinking about what I could speak about the next day or the next week. And last time I spoke to you guys, I meditated for a little while. And while I was meditating, the phrase, the miracle of forgiveness, entered into my mind. So I said, I think that'll be really cool to talk about with people, because I think a lot of people struggle with that. I know I definitely struggle with, forgiveness. I can forget. I can forget pretty easily. And I can let things slide. But that's not true forgiveness. And forgiveness is something like the very concept of it. It's something that's, sometimes I'm not going to lie, sometimes forgiveness is troubling for me. So this was a tough one. But because I was meditating and it came to me during my meditation, I knew this was something that needed to be discussed. Especially considering the fact that, separated from my marriage, still holding on to that bitterness from the past. And last week we released all of that negative energy. It felt so good. I think my mind wanted to continue down the path of talking about how we can forgive, because I let go of so much negative energy last week. It was such a beautiful moment. I want to keep that moment alive. So it's time for me to face this obstacle, forgiveness. Why is forgiveness so hard? Because forgiveness is associated with trauma. You don't struggle to forgive somebody who, may have said the wrong thing or did the wrong thing. That's easy to forgive. But when we talk about forgiveness that's associated with deep pain and trauma, that's harder to contemplate. That's harder to contemplate. And a lot of us struggle with forgiveness because that forgiveness lives in our bodies. And I talk about this all the time. Our trauma lives in us. It lives in our bodies. So in order to get rid of the trauma, we have to retrain our bodies. And we were just talking about, physical fitness and nutrition. Well, we have to train our mind, train our body the same way we train when we exercise to work out. We have to train our bodies to let go of all that pain and that tension and those triggers. And I'm going to give you guys, and I don't even want to, I was researching this because I really wanted to have a deep look at forgiveness, what the concept means exactly, how it can benefit us exactly. And I came across a story about a guy who, I read two crazy stories. One story was about a guy who was a psychologist. His field of psychology, he studied forgiveness for decades. He studied forgiveness and developed a whole model of how forgiveness can be processed, how we can let go of trauma, how we can get past it, how we can forgive people who hurt us. And he said he was tested to the utmost. He had to test his theory to the utmost because his mother was the victim of a home invasion. She was killed. And in order for him to deal with that trauma, in a sense, he told himself that he had to forgive the person who did it. He teaches forgiveness, so in order to not be a hypocrite, he had to live what he taught. Then I read another story about a young man who was 10 years old. 10 years old. Now imagine a 10-year-old child. I got two sons. I got an 8-year-old. I got an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. When this kid in the story was 10, he was kidnapped. He was kidnapped, taken out into the woods, stabbed, shot. Almost died, but survived. Years later, the man who did this to him was dying. And when they caught the guy, he was dying. The police said to him, go confront him. Now, keep in mind, this is years later. He was an adult male at this point in time. He was a grown man. And the police officer who knew what happened and knew the guy had committed this crime came to the individual who was the victim and he said, go confront him. It'll help you. The man went into the room to confront the guy who had hurt him. Peace, what's going on, my brother? And he said he ended up forgiving the guy. And as the guy was dying and wasting away over the span of a couple of years, they actually developed a bond. They developed a bond and actually kind of connected. There was this compassion between the two of them. That's a hell of an example of forgiveness. And that's hard for me to wrap my mind around. Christina, that is powerful. That is powerful because that's something I can't wrap my mind around. I can't understand that. And I'm here tonight to discuss this with you guys. Sometimes I'll show up and I'll say, I'm here to teach. And sometimes I am. But, there's a book called The Pedagogy of the Oppressed where it talks about the role of the teacher and the student. Where the line kind of gets blurred where the teacher is learning from the student learning from the teacher. You can't tell who's who. And that's how I feel when I'm here with you guys. I feel like tonight is one of those nights where I'm going to have to learn from you guys and exchange these ideas with you guys because I don't know. I got notes. I got like 2 pages of notes, but I'm just coming from my heart now because the honest truth of the matter is I don't know. Now keep in mind I'm a black man in America. My people have been the victims of tremendous amounts of hatred and degradation and dehumanization. And we're sitting here talking about forgiveness. And I don't know if I could forgive that. Not only something that big on that big of a scale that affected so many people, but even in my personal life, I struggle with forgiveness. Like I said, I can forget things, I can let things go, but true forgiveness is something that I'm still exploring and learning about. But I want to learn how to truly forgive. You still dealing with trauma from bullying, Mila? You know what? I'm still dealing with some trauma from my past as well. Our relationships can change us, and even a loving relationship can sometimes have elements to it that can be traumatic. You could be in a relationship with somebody and love somebody, and things can go wrong. That could be trauma too. Even in places that are soft, it can still be traumatic. And so forgiveness is something that we have to learn and have to study and examine. Why is that? We have to study and examine it because forgiveness can improve your mental health. That's one of the things that I learned when I was studying and researching for this live stream. I learned that by forgiving people, you release a lot of tension. When you hold on to all that anger, right, and all that stress, what happens is with long-term stress in the body, chronic stress in the body can destroy your immune system. It can create heart problems and create high blood pressure, high levels of cortisol. It's like acid in the body. It eats away at you, literally, physically. So forgiving can help you release all that tension and all that negative energy, and you'll be happier and healthier. As a matter of fact, research shows that individuals who forgive live longer. As hard as that may be, forgiveness can help you live longer. You know, if you can forgive people who hurt people because of the color of their skin, I hear you. Mental trauma, siblings trauma. What does forgiveness mean to me? Well, this is, and that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that question, Marina. Forgiveness is this. Initially, I came into this conversation thinking that forgiveness was you're going to let the past go. The individual that hurt you, you're going to wash away all their crimes, wash away their sins, and absolve them of any responsibility. That's what I thought forgiveness was. But as I started studying, I think the definition of forgiveness is a little bit different when we're talking about the benefits of the psychological benefits of forgiveness. And what forgiveness is, in the articles that I was reading, it's not about absolving the person who hurt you of their sins. It's not about saying that you're going to seek justice and demand justice. What it is really an internal decision that happens within you when you decide that you're not gonna let that hurt stop you from living your life. And that's the part that I like about it. It's not necessarily about saying that the other person who hurt me is okay and I'm gonna let it go. And it's not about maintaining your victimhood. And exactly, Marina, exactly. You're releasing the power that harm had over you. You're releasing the power of the trauma. And that's what's important as far as forgiveness is when you make the decision to let go of the physical effects and the psychological, emotional effects, the internal effects of that betrayal, of that pain, of that hurt. That's very important. However, with me, like a lot of us, when we think about forgiveness, we think about justice. I'm not going to lie. I want to see people who hurt others. And keep in mind, guys, you know what? You guys know, and I've mentioned it before, I used to work at a drug rehab facility for adolescent males. Now, I've found out it's almost like a mathematical equation. Yeah, exactly. That's what we were taught. It's almost like a mathematical equation where the amount of pain a young person deals with, and the earlier the pain they have to deal with comes in their life, the more powerful the drugs they use at an earlier age. Typically, when I was young, guys who were into heavy duty stuff were like in their 20s. You know, guys who were using heroin were in their 30s. Guys who were using crack, they were in their 40s, right? But when you have a kid who's 15, 16 years old and they're doing heroin, they're popping pills, that means they're using that heavy duty stuff at such a young age. A lot of times it's because they're trying to ease some very severe pain. Letting go of small things can be hard. Yeah, letting go. Sometimes there's an old song by that rock group Bush. I don't know if you guys remember the little things that kill. It's those little things that can sometimes be the most hurtful. One little sentence, somebody could say something in just a tone of their voice, get under your skin and hurt you for years to come, right? Yeah, the bully spit in your eye as a kid. You see the humor in it, Chelsea? Well, it's good that you can see the humor in it now. You know, but still, you know, and that's what gets me is the fact that in order for us to heal, we have to let go of all the pain and trauma. But it gets me because justice, I feel like sometimes justice needs to get done. Justice got to get done. At least that's what's holding me back from forgiveness. I think justice needs to happen in order for me to make sense out of the universe around me. And I think that's how it is for a lot of people. Somebody spit in your eye, Chelsea, as a kid. You grew up. You can see the humor in it now and let go of that pain. But what happened to that? That's what I'm thinking. What happened to that guy who spit in your face? I want to know what happened to him. I hope that, you know, he learned his lesson and something happened to him to make him realize that what he had done had hurt someone. But this is the thing that I saw in my research, is that it's not about that. Forgiveness is not about hoping the other person is punished. It's about totally giving up. It's about totally taking your power back and not worrying about what happens to the other person. Because quite often we'll hold on to all that anger, hold on to all that rage, hoping that they learn their lesson, hoping that karma gets them, when in actuality we're giving them control over us. That's really what forgiveness is about. It's not about saying the other person was okay, was right for what they did, or you forgive them for what they did. It's about taking back your power, so they can't have control over you. Jess, you're right. Sometimes you gotta let go and let God, and that's difficult. That's really difficult. Because what if God is more forgiving than me? What if I want to see that person suffer for the harm they did? And we talk about karma. Karma's slow. Karma's slow. Somebody did something to hurt you, when you were 7, and now you're 21, 14 years later, they still may not have gotten their karma yet. Yeah, and you know what, Mila? One thing too I realized with a lot of these individuals who are bullies, they fight their own battles. And that's an important part of forgiveness too. Empathy is a very important part of forgiveness. And one of the things that it was talking about in the research that I read was that, you know, looking at things from the other person's perspective can help us to feel compassion for them. And that's where forgiveness really lies. It really lies in being empathetic towards the other person, seeing their pain, seeing what they're going through from their eyes. And I met a lot of people who were just dreadful to others. But one of the things that helped me to survive is the ability to know that they're pain. I've worked with people long enough and seen enough trauma where I could see, okay, he's acting the way he's acting because he's in pain. She's acting the way she's acting because she's in pain. But sometimes it's hard to see past that. Hmm. You know what, Val? That is tough. That is tough. Your son was 20 years old, and like I said, I used to work in a drug rehab facility. Understand this, and I'm gonna say this from the bottom of my heart and the depths of my soul. I'm sorry that happened. I'm so sorry that happened. And as parents, we do our absolute best to protect our children, and a lot of times our kids fight against that. Our kids fight against our protection. Sometimes they fight against our love. And I want you to forgive yourself because you didn't do anything wrong. You phrased it as, you said, I watched my son die from an overdose. But I'm pretty sure you didn't watch your son die. I'm pretty sure you fought and did your best. You did your best. You did your best. We're going to see some positive. Everybody send Val some positive energy, please. And someone mentioned earlier, that's the tough part. Forgiving yourself is the tough part. Forgiving yourself is the tough part. And I've done some things, sometimes I struggle to forgive myself too. Sometimes I had such low self-esteem when I was young. I struggled to forgive myself just for, full pause and making social mistakes. And I was so tough on myself. I was so tough on myself. In Buddhism, they call that the second dart. The first dart of pain is when you go through the experience. The second dart of pain when you keep reliving the experience in your mind and beating yourself up about it. They ask for love in the most loving way, unloving way. Yeah, that's very true, Alexa. You came home and he was in a coma. And that's the thing, Val. You walked into that situation. You didn't allow that situation. You didn't create that situation. The situation occurred and you walked into it. And I know you did what you could to save your son. It's not an issue. It's not an issue of you feeling a sense of guilt because you did something wrong. I'm not gonna allow you to think that you did something wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. You're a parent. You're a parent who tried your best. The world is a twisted place. The world is a twisted place, and we loving ones, we parents who try our best, We fight the good fight and sometimes we lose. But I don't want you blaming yourself for that because you fought the good fight. You tried your best. And I know these words, I feel guilty even saying these words because these words sound so superficial and so callous. They sound superficial and so callous. But understand you're a mother who gave your son love and gave your son what he needed. I mean, it's hard to imagine something like that. And I would never disrespect you by saying I understand what you feel because I've never had that experience. I wouldn't disrespect you by saying anything like that. But I will say that we're here for you. And whatever way we can be here, we're here for you. Yeah, you're very welcome, pal. You're very welcome. And also, we were just talking about empathy. How we forgive by being empathy and by empathetic and compassionate. Use that same empathy and compassion for yourself. There's nobody in the world who deserves your compassion and empathy more than you. I mean, let's like we just said. Think about it from the other person's. Think about it as if you were standing in the other person's shoes. Think about it from the outside looking in. Think about it from a different perspective. We have survivor's guilt, and we figure out different ways. When we feel helpless, we use our psychological powers to do things to hurt ourselves, to make us feel powerful again, to make us feel like we have some kind of control. I make perfect sense. Your father wants forgiveness. Yeah, Kat, that's another thing with me too. That's another thing with me too. When someone does something to hurt you and they demand forgiveness. They're like, hey, you know what? You should forgive me. And over the years of my life, I had people say hurtful things to me and do hurtful things to me, and then come back as if nothing was wrong, as if nothing, as if nothing occurred. And it's, I feel almost like, how dare you? How dare you do and say the things that you did and then just ask me for forgiveness? Just say, hey, you should forgive. Like when somebody who hurts you instructs you to forgive them, I feel like that's manipulation. And that's one thing I don't like. I don't like to see manipulators get away with that. I want people to understand and know, like, yo, I see what you're doing. I see your manipulation. I'm not going to fall for it. But that's another one of those things where that's the challenge. That's the challenge. Letting somebody in after they hurt you. And they don't apologize. Now, let me ask you guys a question. As far as Kat's situation with her father, he wants to be forgiven for his actions. How do you think she should handle it? Let's talk about that as a group. And Marina, that's very true. That's very true. They think forgiveness is absolute, and it's not. And you're right. You can forgive somebody, and then next week you're mad at them again. But Kat, I think that one of the things that has to be done, I mean, and I'm just going to ask someone outside looking in, have you had this conversation with your father and said, hey, listen, you hurt me. You haven't acknowledged that. Have you let him know where you stand on that issue and what you need? Because he seems like he needs forgiveness, but you have needs too. Do you think that you can just communicate to him, hey, you need forgiveness? We could work on that. But this is what I need in return. Forgiveness doesn't mean access, and that's very, very true. Sometimes you forgive somebody, you need boundaries. You get manipulated by your family, you get mad that you're scared. Why are you scared? And Jess, you're right about that as well. We were discussing that earlier too. Forgiving somebody and letting go of that negative energy is a way to take control and take power into your life. But I think a lot of times we try to find other ways to empower ourselves because we want to empower ourselves so that the individuals who hurt us, A, can never hurt us again, and B, so that we can have power to take action, even if it means taking action against them. We don't. I mean, like I was just saying, holding on to all that negativity can get you sick. It could hurt your heart. It could like raise your blood pressure. It can cause heart problems. It destroys your immune system. So you want to let all that negative energy go so you can move on. But at the same time, the idea of moving on with this person who hurt you, just living a life and hurting others and not caring, stressful. Might not have enough money to do stuff. So forevermore is the manipulation a part of that, where they're manipulating you out of money, or they're manipulating you to buy things for them or pay things for them. And Jackie, you're right. Energetically, it is very draining to stay in that fight. And a lot of times we stay in that fight internally. Even after we separate ourselves from the person and move away from that person and change our lives and become different people, still holding on to the past. You guys are right. No expectations. That's very true. But at the same time, you know what I'm gonna say to that, Marina? I'm gonna say I'm fortunate. I'm fortunate because there have been times in the past where I felt like I don't want to have expectations of people because they're going to let me down, and I want to keep moving forward and I want to keep growing. But then I realized that my moving forward and my continual growth depends upon me making positive connections with people. So I just decided to make myself the best person I could possibly be, and I realized that's in and of itself attracting individuals who I can depend on around me. Because we can't live alone and we can't live without expectations. We have to have expectations. That's what relationships are built upon. Kat, you plan on addressing your father? That might be a good idea. Because a lot of times, one thing I realized, especially with my marriage, a lot of times we have these internal conversations in our own minds, but we don't communicate how we feel. A lot of times I'll be upset with my wife for not knowing how I felt, but I never opened my mouth and said, hey, this is what's going on with me. This is how I feel. I'm upset about this. I always had that guy thing where you feel these emotions and you don't say anything, and I would just expect her to change her behavior or acknowledge my pain. But I never said anything. And it's possible, and I could be wrong, Kat, it's possible that, maybe your dad doesn't know. Maybe he just assumed that it was time for forgiveness. Maybe he just doesn't know what you need or how you feel. Try to see it from that perspective. Maybe that's what it is. I know for a fact that's happened to me, where I'm assuming, oh yeah, she knows she's wrong. She knows she made me mad. And then when we sit down and talk about it, she's like, I didn't know that. I didn't know how you felt. And that's me being a guy, I guess. You do block a lot of good by holding on to those grudges. And you prevent your own personal development. Yeah, exactly. Marina, you're right. Who can read minds? Nobody can read minds. you know, communication is a very important part of forgiveness too. Very good suggestion, Marina. Very good suggestion. Write a letter. If it's hard to have that conversation, write a letter. If it's hard for him to sit through the conversation, write a letter. Good idea. Or, shoot a video. I think on your phone you can shoot a video for like, I think it's like a minute, and then you can like email it to somebody. You can send it to them and say, hey, watch this. And you guys are right. It's important for us to learn to forgive, and the hardest person to forgive is to forgive ourselves. This is a great conversation. I'm really enjoying this conversation. I'm really enjoying this conversation. But yeah, so going back to what I was saying, there are certain things that we can do to help us forgive. He does. I think you know what, Kat. He may get it, but the thing about it is, it's not that he doesn't get it. Because I think people get things quite often. They get things, but they play dumb because they don't want to address responsibility, and that could be it. And if he doesn't want to take responsibility for his actions, it's going to be hard to maintain a relationship. Yeah, he's not ready to admit it. But one thing that can happen is the fact that you can communicate to him directly how you feel, and maybe that could be your way to move on. Forevermore, you're gonna go. Well, have a good night. Thank you for joining us. Sending you love and positive energy. But yeah, so forgiveness is a tricky thing. But in many instances, it can be necessary, especially when you're dealing with somebody long term for long term relationships, and you want to sustain a relationship. So there's certain things that can be done, and communication is definitely one of them. Talking about how you feel with the other person, and letting them know directly, and letting them know directly what you need, and reminding them, because sometimes they might need reminders. People, you have been holding on to this grudge for years, and that person has been behaving the way they behave for years. And just like it's difficult for you to retrain yourself to let go of that trauma and that anger and that bitterness, it might be difficult for them to change the behavior that's creating that reaction in you. So every now and again, somebody might need to remind you, hey, you know what, gotta let that go. And that person may need you to remind them, like, hey, we talked about this last week. You said you tried, and they try. But I think that's an excellent thing for us to remember. Another thing for us to remember for forgiveness is, I read an article that was saying, develop empathy, strengthen your empathy. Think about how the other person, think about what could drive somebody to behave the way they behave. I've worked with a lot of kids with behavior issues and anger and hate, hearts filled with hate. And I just stop and think and ask myself, how could a young person be filled with this much anger? What happened to them? And I think that by learning a little bit more about somebody's story, talking to them a little bit more, finding out where they're coming from, getting past those defenses, you start to understand people a little bit better, and that makes it easier for you to connect with them and forgive them and be empathetic towards them. And that compassion can develop a little bit better. Yeah, and you're right. Dumping toxic people as opposed to forgiving. Yeah, you're right. That's definitely one of those things. But at the same time, I will say this. In the research that I was reading, it was saying that if a person is abusive in some way, shape, or form, and you forgive them, you can forgive them and still have nothing to do with them. Like it was said earlier, forgiveness does not mean access. And if somebody is perpetually abusive to you, you may have to dump them. And there's a lot of toxic people out there. You might have to dump them out your life. Might have to. Yeah, exactly. Boundaries. Boundaries exist for a reason. Boundaries exist to protect you and keep you safe. The last thing you want to do is have a good heart and want to forgive and move on, but the other person is still, they're not trying to change. You're trying to change your life. The other person is not trying to change. And they keep hurting you. So you may have to forgive, but if you're going to forgive and protect yourself at the same time. Remember, you're important too. That's the one thing that we forget in this culture, is that we are important too. We're the healers. We are all in the process of healing ourselves. You see the way that, people are opening up in this conversation and talking about their pain and talking about what they're going through. We're all uplifting each other right now. All us people in the room are all us empaths, all those people who are, latent psychics, all those people who believe in something bigger than ourselves, people who could feel the energy in the room. All of us, we're the healers in the world. So we gotta take the whole world's abuse, because there's so many toxic people out there. And one thing I had to learn was that we may be the world's healers. We may be the ones who are trying to push humanity forward with our love and our compassion, but we are important in this too. And we don't have to sacrifice ourselves for other people's behavior. And that's a good point too. Forgiveness is a gift to yourself. Yeah. And you have to find balance. In Buddhism, they call it the middle path, the middle way. You're gonna find balance. On the one hand, somebody can be toxic. You have to get them out of your life. On the other hand, you don't want to judge too harshly. You want to give people a chance and heal when and how you can. It's a delicate balance. It's a very delicate balance. And you have to know what you need and be able to read the room and read the situation. Exactly. You don't have to and you shouldn't put yourself in a dangerous situation, particularly when somebody has made it clear that they're not going to change. Somebody ain't going to change, then guess what? We don't have to deal with each other. I don't hate you. We just ain't got to deal with each other. Something else too that I found to be kind of interesting when I was reading that article, it was talking about ways that we can develop ourselves so that we can forgive, and they mentioned this in a scientific article. They said prayer. And I always find, if you guys have been watching my live streams, you know that I love to, walk that fine line between science and spirituality. And I found it really interesting that I'm reading this scientific article about, human psychology and forgiveness. And it's talking about the neurological benefits of it and the biological benefits of it and mind-body connection. And then they said prayer. Now, that of course, they weren't advocating for a religion. They weren't advocating for belief in God. But prayer helps us to let go of a lot of that tension. And I don't know, if you guys are believers or anything like that, but I definitely do believe in a higher power. I believe in, something greater than myself that created the sun, the moon, the stars, and the universe. And when I pray, I do feel a connection to something greater than myself. And when you pray, it gives you the strength to forgive, and that forgiveness is beneficial to you. It's almost like you're praying and answering the prayer at the same time. Offering them loving kindness for weeks allowed you to forgive. Thomas, you gotta go. All right, well, Thomas, thank you for stopping by. But prayer actually is a great way for people to let go of all that negativity and that anger that's bottled up inside of you. And of course, you guys know I'm not advocating a religion. I don't follow a religion at all. But I do believe in something. And prayer helps. It's scientifically documented. Scientific documented evidence that prayer helps people to be more forgiving. And being more forgiving actually is beneficial to us. Let go of those grudges when and how you can. Journaling is another way, and I think that's really interesting because with journaling, you're able to explore yourself and explore your feelings and understand what you need. A lot of times we don't forgive because we don't understand what we need. You ever notice sometimes you get mad at somebody and have a grudge with them, and you don't even fully understand why? You don't understand why you can't let it go. You don't understand why this one small thing seemed to hurt so much. But then when you sit down and journal and start writing about it, you understand a deeper connection to what's going on around you, and you're able to say, oh, wow, okay, this is why I'm holding on to that grudge. I'm holding on to that grudge because she said something that my mom said to me years ago. My mom hurt me. My mom was abusive. So that's putting me in a situation where I can't let go of this small thing she said. My dad said something, and she said something similar, or he said something similar. It reminds me of my dad. That's why I can't let it go. And sometimes just us sitting in a room and thinking, and with our minds racing and spinning out of control, we can't see these things. But if you put it down on a piece of paper, somehow it organizes the thoughts and lets you look within yourself. And it allows you to see what's holding you back from forgiveness. It makes forgiveness easier. Self-examination. And mindfulness. Mindfulness can help us forgive too. Like I was saying before, mindfulness is it's immersing yourself in the present moment and being aware of how your body's responding to certain things. And I know that when I was going through anxiety and having panic attacks, I was so mindful that I was able to have more control over my emotions because I was aware of my physical reaction to negative emotional situations. So my muscles would get tense, my shoulders would get tense, and then I would be aware of it, mindful, and I could say, just let go. And let it go. And over time, I was retraining my body, teaching my body how I wanted it to respond, as opposed to just responding reflexively and instinctively. And that allowed me to retrain my body so that I wouldn't get anxious and so that I wouldn't get so angry or so upset. And the same thing with forgiveness. Forgiveness is something, that anger and that bitterness is something that's locked in the body. So the body must be retrained. It's locked in the mind. The mind must be retrained. And mindfulness is a part of that training. I love it. I love it. And like I was saying, I try my best to let go when I can and how I can. But sometimes, like anybody, there's a limit. There's a limit to what I can handle. And there's a limit to what I can let go of. And, I need to work on that. You're right. You're right, Ruby. You're right. You can ask the higher power to let go of things that don't serve me. And that's the real thing. That's the really important part with mindfulness and meditation, is to remember that, because a lot of times that anger, you feel like it serves you, right? If you're a person who's quiet and timid and meek like I am, I'm an introvert. And because I've been an introvert, a lot of times I put up with a lot of stuff in my life. Being introverted, not wanting to be confrontational, I put up with a lot of crap. And there's no moment where an introvert like me feels more powerful than a moment when I'm angry and I'm not backing down. When I get mad, you push me too far and I don't back down, I feel like that anger serves me. I do. It might not. I might be living in a delusion, but that's where, mindfulness comes in too. And that's the trick of the mind. I told you guys I used to write songs. Still like to write songs from time to time. Not that I could play an instrument or sing, but I like songs. And I had that song, I had a lyric in the song where I said, my eyes are deceivers and my mind is a liar. Your mind will play those kinds of tricks and tell you that, yeah, this anger is making you feel powerful. You ain't backing down, you're powerful. Broby, that's a really good idea. Write the positive things about that person. So you can see the positive things they brought into your life. And that's actually pretty cool. It's actually a good idea. I'm gonna definitely utilize that. I think that's a really great idea. See, I like this conversation because we're all learning from each other. I think this is great. I think tonight was one of those nights I learned more from you guys than you guys got anything out of me. Yeah, you see yourself in it, Christina. You're right. And that's another thing too. I did a live stream earlier this year called Mirror Theory, where I was talking about how I believe the universe is kind of a mirror, and everything that comes into your life in some way, shape, or form is a reflection of you or something within you. And a lot of times these individuals who hurt us are showing us something about ourselves. And I can honestly say that. I can honestly say, in retrospect, many of the individuals who I had negative relationships with, or unhealthy relationships with, or unhealthy experiences with, those experiences and those people were showing me something about me. And, I was able to find the blessing in them. Things didn't go the way I wanted, but I can say one thing with me. If I go through a tough situation and I learn something from it, and I can benefit from it that way. And I've had tough situations, and I've learned from them tough situations, and I'm grateful for them. I'm grateful even when things don't go my way, because it's showing me something about myself, and knowledge is the most important thing. And if I go through a tough situation and I can learn something about me, I think that's a beautiful thing. If nothing else, I get closer to myself. And maybe that's the whole point. Maybe the whole point of this whole experiment that we call forgiveness is about you letting go of that pain after you have the revelation. Have the revelation of what the situation is trying to teach you and show you. What the pain is trying to teach you and show you. You might be in a situation with somebody that hurts you, and you might not be able to forgive them. But that inability to forgive is showing you something within yourself. And I'm still not going to sit here and say that I forgive everything and forgive everyone, but I understand that when they say forgiveness, they don't mean that you just allow somebody to hurt you and move on. When we're talking about forgiveness in the scientific, psychological sense, what you're talking about is the desire to move forward and retraining yourself. Retraining yourself so that you can move forward and live without holding on to the pain. And, it's hard to move forward when you're carrying 40 years of baggage. And the honest truth of the matter is, when you truly develop as a person and you become free in your mind and in your spirit, you don't want to hold on to that stuff anyway. You don't feel it. I've had moments of meditation where you let all that go. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. What's going on? Yeah, you have those moments of absolute clarity during meditation where you're in such a state of bliss you're not holding on to anything else anymore anyway. Exactly. Certain individuals I've met over the years, I would meet them and not like them, and then realize the reason why I don't like them is because they remind me a little too much of myself. I met a young lady years ago when I think I was 24, and and she was interested in me and I was interested in her, but I ended up bailing on a relationship because she reminded me too much of myself. At that time, I was going through depression and I was insecure and anxious and all kinds of stuff. And she was it was like dating myself. Who the hell want to date themselves when you're that unstable? I got out of there. I'm gone. Who want to date themselves when they're like that? The people in your life and the relationships that you have are reflections of you. And that's what I had to learn. Yeah, it is hard to, when you haven't healed. And I think that's the most important thing. The most important thing is we have to learn to heal ourselves. That's that's what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to. It's hard to forgive when you have not healed. Once you heal, forgiveness is so much easier. It's easier to heal and let that stuff go. Once you heal, you can let that stuff go like it's nothing. I remember when I wasn't healed, every little thing, I'm gonna hold on to this. Oh my God, I just be so upset and think about it and ruminate over it. Sitting in a room by myself, listening to Gwen Stefani, don't speak, just crying. Oh my God, why? Right? But then when you heal and focus on yourself and grow yourself mentally and spiritually, you can let it go. It means nothing. I'll call that God's eye view. When you're in that God's eye view, these little things don't mean anything anymore. That's the important thing about healing. And with healing comes forgiveness. But we are in charge of our own healing. That's the thing. Man, this conversation is cool because I'm learning as I'm talking to y'all. I barely even looked at my notes tonight. I'm learning as I'm speaking to you. You guys are opening doors in my mind. I'm really enjoying this conversation. Yeah, you're right. People think they're broken, not repairable. Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. There ain't no such. But I believe, and this is just me personally, I used to work with kids who went through all kinds of trauma and anger and pain and were angry and aggressive. And I always used to have a saying where I would say, there's no such thing as a bad kid. Introvert, yeah. Yeah, I'm an introvert. I would always say there's no such thing as a bad kid. And I believe the same thing. I believe the same thing to an extent about adults. I believe that we always have the ability to redeem ourselves, but we got to work for that redemption. Fallen humanity must work for its redemption. And if those who don't work, they become toxic, and you have to stay away from them. Any human being who's not productive becomes toxic. Undesirable experiences. Well, listen, guys, it's getting a little bit late. I gotta get up early and take my kids. When I take my kids to school, my kids are gonna be doing homeschool because COVID. They gotta get tested and stuff. They're not sick, but their school has real strict rules about when the kids can come back after break and all that stuff. They gotta get tested first. So tomorrow they'll be in school here on the computer. So let me wrap up this evening. Thank y'all so much for showing up. Thank you so much for your wisdom, for your support, for your kindness. And I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys helping me and opening my eyes, opening my spirit. And I appreciate you guys because you guys were so supportive of each other tonight. Thank y'all. Peace and blessings to all of y'all. Peace and blessings to you. Thank y'all so much. I'm sending love and positive energy to all of y'all. Good night, good night, good night. Peace. All right. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I will be back next week, Wednesday, but you might see me hop and just do a live later on tonight. But before you go, before I go, tell a friend to tell a friend. I wrote a book called Easy, Guide to Mindfulness and Meditation for children 8 to 12. You can look at the link in my bio if anybody's interested in copying a copy. That's at www.devinmccrory.com. And thank you for joining me. Peace and blessing.